Hi, welcome to Dear Becky B. I am creating my second letter to myself today video, and with just a little bit of an explanation. So I had originally intended to, when I was going to start this project, like have it all mapped out, super clear on how everything was going to go, outlined, prepared, and then I feel like I just got caught in the weeds of that and overthinking, overanalyzing everything, and so I decided just to kind of jump in with this. So there will be changes made as I go along with this, but for now, I am just kind of winging it. I have never done anything like this before, obviously. But I feel like I've got some really good information and insight to share. So today I'm going to be reading my second letter to myself and talking a little bit about that. This one is to myself right before I got married when I was 23 in 1992. And in the early 90s, the late 80s, I spent a lot of time, so much time. I mean, my whole social life was the church, like the LDS church, as far as like young women stuff goes. And then after I turned 18 and graduated from high school, then it was singles ward. So I just had so much. I mean, that was my focus, right? That's where I made my friends. That's where I dated a little bit. It's where I spent all my time. So I was really influenced by that, growing up in Salt Lake, Cottonwood Heights area, in a neighborhood full of LDS families. And in some ways, it was really lovely and really ideal. And in other ways, it was really hard and really challenging. I never really felt like I fit in and fit the mold. And I always kind of thought that was because of my family being a little bit different. My dad had been married before, so I had two older half sisters. My parents were not married in the temple. We didn't go on ward campouts. We didn't go to a lot of ward activities. Because my family, my dad's family on my dad's side, we had a cabin and we spent so much time in the mountains with our extended family, camping and boating and things like that. And I was always really kind of confused, like why there was so much pressure put on, that I would hear at church about family home evening and how that was the way you kept like your family connected and safe and together. And it just never really jived with me that like you had to do that because we never did that, but we did all these other things together. And I don't know, I just really loved my family and my extended family. But that's also part of this puzzle for me is like, my dad's extended family were nobody was really active in the church except for one of his sisters and her family and my grandmother sometimes. But it was like a not Mormon family, and so it was really confusing to grow up in this culture, this environment of the church, and hearing all these things that are supposed to be what makes people good and what you have to do to be good, and then to have like, I mean, this cognitive dissonance, right? That this family that I loved and cherished and we spent so much time with was not doing all those things. So it was kind of a mind fuck for me and kind of confusing. But I did at some point, I believe, my late teenage years, think that the church was going to be the answer because both of my half sisters had some problems, but one was struggling with addiction. And in my mind, like I thought, well, if I marry somebody in the church who's been on a mission and is active in the church, like my family is not going to have problems because the way I interpreted what was presented to me about the church was that like if I had this kind of family where I was married in the temple, we went to church every Sunday, we were active, we participated, we wouldn't have these problems. And, that obedience and that adherence to the rules would bring blessings. That also eventually created some cognitive dissonance for me because my marriage was really bad. I mean, at first it was okay. We were in love. I thought I was in love anyway. Very attracted to him, uh, but he was also like different. You know, I and I didn't realize that difference was something that would trip me up and get in the way of my own well-being and my own happiness as a mother and a wife. So anyway, I like before we got engaged. No, I think we were engaged. The first time I saw him, um, my ex-husband, the first time I saw him like basically throw a man tantrum. We were engaged. We were at his parents' house, and his parents were talking about some sort of extended family issue with my soon-to-be father-in-law and his brother. His brother allegedly stealing money from uh, their mother. So anyway, my ex-husband just kind of freaked out. He threw some things. He started yelling and calling his parent, swearing at his parents and freaking out. And I remember standing there in their living room next to their piano, and they both like went to him, I think, to try to make him stop. So I I don't know, maybe they were worried that I would break up with him. And I mean, I probably should have. But I also then wouldn't have my kids that I adore. So anyway, they both got one on each side of him, trying to calm him down. He settled down. We left. He explained this whole thing to be like this thing that the reason he got so angry was because his dad had lied, and his uncle was a crook and all these things. And so I accepted that explanation and didn't realize it was going to be a pattern or a problem. So hindsight 2020, right? And like we often, when I was kind of taught to like give people the benefit of the doubt. And if uh sometimes people just get really upset, and it's I didn't, in my home, I never had anybody uh behave that way except for my half sisters in different ways. But I just, I took his explanation for the behavior and thought, okay, this is a one-off. It's not going to happen again. He went on a mission. He goes to the temple. We go to church together. Blah blah blah. So anyway, um, that's a thing that happened. And during the first year of our marriage, I don't really recall when it started, like when I realized that like if I was going to disagree with him and kind of push my point, that he would kind of explode like this. I don't remember when the first time was in that first year. But I do know that it was I quickly realized that I basically had to uh I couldn't win an argument, right? Like not that I was arguing to win, but sometimes it was like I just wanted something different, or I didn't think something was right, and we couldn't talk about that. It was just an argument, and he was right. So I'm going to read this letter to myself, um, my second letter. Okay, and so here we go. Dear Becky B, you are getting married soon, You have felt some pressure to do this sooner than later. Your soon to be husband doesn't want to wait for his brother to get home from his mission or his uncle to be in town. So you agree to um, have a wedding before you kind of thought you would. So you're really attracted to each other and you want to have sex, so you feel rushed. So you don't do that before your marriage. That's a big no to have sex before you get married. You haven't been sexually active yet, and he says he hasn't either. So even though part of you would like to take this at a slower pace, there is also an incentive to hurry it up. Leading up to the wedding, the two of you have had a couple of disagreements. One was about a vacuum. Your grandma on your dad's side, who you're really close with, wants to gift you a vacuum for the wedding. That's what she has given all of your cousins when they get married. And so when you tell him this, he gets very serious and states that he will only have one kind of vacuum cleaner, and then goes on to explain why and how this type of vacuum he wants is the best and the only one we can have. You're taken by surprise by how much he cares about this vacuum and how intense this conversation becomes. There is even a mention of calling things off. You begin to cry and become really upset. And when you get home, you talk to your mom about what happened, and your mom doesn't recognize this as a problematic thing, and she says she will talk to your grandma about getting you a different gift. Part of you sees this and is worried about that this is a problem and that he made such a big deal about a vacuum. And part of you is afraid of backing out of the marriage. Invitations are printed, flowers are ordered and paid for, your dress is purchased and being altered, and you really love this dress that you're going to get married in. Plus, it feels like it would be like really horrifically embarrassing to have the wedding called off. And what would people think of you? And you go through with it. Uh, Before the wedding, a couple of weeks before, you go to the temple to take out your endowment. And about a month before you get married is when this happens. You have taken a temple prep class to get ready for this moment. And this is an ordinance you need to do before you get married. Before the endowment, you have to do an initiatory. The older women in the temple give you a white sheet with a hole in it for you to put over your head, and you are naked underneath. With the sides of the sheet open, these older women touch your body in many places with anointing oil, and they're doing prayers or blessings uh, for your body. Nobody told you before this that you would have to be naked under a sheet with strangers. It's really uncomfortable, but you don't really know what to do. And so you kind of are frozen and you just let it happen. And then you put on your white dress and go into the chapel area for the endowment ceremony. As the endowment begins and goes on, you are so weirded out by it. It's nothing like you were taught in your temple prep class. You look at your mom and your friends and your young women leaders, and in your mind, you think something like, well, I guess this is what we do. And so you stay and you finish the thing. And you can now understand why one of your best friends was freaked out after she did this and wanted to talk to the temple president, the stake president, and the bishop. And this is the friend that you and she were budding feminists. And so now you get it, like what that was about. Another problem you have been wrestling with before the wedding is your dad. He won't be able to see you get married. Your marriage will take place in one of the church's temples. And your dad, because he is honest, won't be able to get a temple recommend. It's kind of a Mormon girl's fairy tale to get married in the temple and live happily ever after. Your dad tried really hard to stop smoking so he could go. He just had shoulder surgery a couple of months before, and since he is self employed, money is really tight. He's expected to pay tithing anyway, so he won't be at the temple. You tell your soon to be husband that you would really prefer to have a civil wedding to each other performed, so your dad can be there. And then you can go to the temple after and have your sealing to each other performed. Your soon to be husband pulls out a lot of quotes from church leaders, along with some scriptures about how you should not do this and how it is wrong, and how you should set an example to your unworthy family members by having the ceremony without them. You don't realize that this is the beginning of spiritual abuse, weaponizing quotes of church leaders or scriptures that give him the correct answer and the way to live your life. You know that he is the priesthood holder and leader that you should hearken unto. Eventually, this is another thing you give in on. What you don't know now is that this will become one of the biggest regrets in your life. Letting other people make this decision about where, when, and how you will be married, and excluding your dad. Especially when you were in the thick of divorce and your dad and your therapist are the only two men who have your back and are telling you to get out of this situation. And then your dad dies. Your soon-to-be husband is subtly working to devalue your husband. Sorry, let me back that up. You don't know it yet, but your husband has already begun devaluing your dad and your family. He is subtly working to have you devalue them. You have never been taught how to recognize manipulative people. You are beginning to realize that when you and him disagree, it's very rare for him to seriously consider your thoughts and feelings. You want to wait at least 1 year before you have children, and he begins again to quote church leaders about not putting this off, and again you acquiesce. You are pregnant within 1 month of your marriage. You had no idea it would happen this fast. But you want to be a mom, so even though this is like happening way too fast for you, you still want to be a mom. He is in school and you are working. He's in school and works for his dad sometimes, and you work at a bank, and that is your main income as a couple. And you live in one of his parents' apartment complexes as managers. It seems like this is a good idea. It gives you free rent and gives him something to do outside of school. What you don't know is that this is the way he will, this is the beginning or a continuation of his pattern. And you think because he's in school, that's why he's not working. But you'll soon realize that there will become a really problematic pattern of him maintaining employment and a steady income. But now, right now, you are hopeful, you're in love, and you're optimistic, and you don't have any idea how bad it's going to get. And on your wedding day, you feel like a princess and you are full of pride. You have proved you aren't like your older half sisters, who are different sides of the same coin and have brought so much chaos into your home as you grew up. They are 8 and 7 years older than you, and they both fight with your dad, and they both blame him for their problems. It's not really their fault. They were horribly neglected by their mother, but their behavior and their problems impacted you more than you know yet. You've achieved a traditional normal marriage, or so it seems, and so you feel really proud of that. You feel a little too proud of that, actually. Uh you kind of feel like you've got this I'm better than you attitude about it. Um but it was really important to you to show that you could be better than they were because they caused so much problems. So dear Becky B, think about these things, and I love you. You're going to get through it. You're stronger than you know.